really just coming to me as I'm reading each line. And I write music a lot easier than I write lyrics, but I mean, this was just like exponential. This was just, it was there, and it was incredible. Within 15 minutes, I had the idea. After 30 minutes, I sent him back a demo. He's like, "Are you kidding me?" But it was there.
Sometimes it just happens that way. And as we've found from talking with other artists in the past, oftentimes some of the best stuff happens like that. I guess it's, I don't know, you just write it from the heart, from the spur of the moment, from the feel, and you don't have time to tinker it and spoil it. So, I can see where that could happen, and it's got to be a great feeling when it does, because you can sit there, I know, you can sit there and struggle with something for hours or days even, and have it not come together for you. So it's got to be a real kick when it does happen.
And the worst is when, like, your guys will come over to write a song. I found out that doesn't work. It almost never works. Like, let's have a writing session. Like, let's just have spontaneity just, like, fall out of the sky. It, sometimes I guess it could. So maybe some guys are that good, but, usually my ideas just hit in the middle of the night. I'm taking a shower. It's like, let me get to a phone or a recorder. You don't know when it's going to hit.
Yeah, I know that in the past, when I was in various stages of business that I was in, whether it was broadcast, whether it was selling advertising or whatever it was, and you'd have these staff meetings, these obligatory meetings, and these brainstorming sessions, and you'd go through and try to come up with ideas and everything. But some of the best stuff was stuff that we came up with on our own, like you said, maybe in the middle of the night, or you wake up in the morning and say, "Holy crap, that's a good idea." And you write it down and you take that to the meeting with you, because those meetings really only turn out to be a session of rehashing stuff that you have already thought of. There's not often that you get a real great idea comes right out of the meeting room. John Bon Jovial, you look anxious to say something here.
Well, yeah, I wanted to add that the thought came to me while listening to the conversation that it's almost like a musical version of improv theater. If it comes to you, it comes to you, and there's no way that you can force it. It just happens. Is that
true?
Ray, does that pretty much apply to what you're trying to do?
Yeah, I found almost 99% of the time, like you said, it just hits you and it's there. And when the inspiration's there, you better have something to capture it, because it's fleeting. A lot of times I've dreamt of parts of songs, and I've had to wake up and scramble for a piece of paper, or now we have phones with recorders. But David, how bad is it when you're leaving a meeting? You're speaking of board meetings. You leave the meeting, and 2 minutes later, it's like, damn it, I wanted to say that. And everybody's going already.
Hey, doesn't that always happen? Yeah. And you don't want to wait till the next meeting, because heck, that's not till next Monday.
It's old news, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, I know exactly what you mean. Ray, tell the people a little bit, and tell us too, because this is our first chance to talk with you. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you came from, and how you got into music, how you got to where you are today.
Well, I'm Brooklyn born, and I still live within 15 minutes of New York City. Took piano lessons from the time I was 6 till about 9 or 10. A Catholic school nun. She was super cool. Dad was a doo wop singer, so I'm second generation. They didn't go pro, so to speak, but I mean, they were really, really good. A lot of street corners, and they even got to play the 1964 World's Fair main stage. I wish they had video of that. But,
really? Yeah, that would be awesome. But, hey, just having the memory is something special.
Yeah.
But I really... Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I was going to say I'm touring since I'm 15 years old. Of course, during summertime, being chaperoned as a teenager. But, I played keyboards, and then I taught myself how to play guitar and then bass. And then the thing about touring with chaperoned acts is they're feeding you, they're putting you in hotels, they're taking care of you. Then when you're 19 years old and you join a New York City club band, and you're like, "Hey, where's our spread? Where do we get dressed?" And they're just looking at you like there's a bathroom right there, and we have chicks behind the bar. Here's a drink ticket. Get out of here.
Right. One thing you said really, really intrigued me, though, because it's something you don't hear very often, and that is, and please, all the nuns of the world, please forgive me for saying this, but I can't resist. I've got to say it. How often do you hear of a cool nun in Catholic school.
And there, I guess it's hit or miss. That, like, everybody else, you have really cool people in you have some cool lawyers. I think
Sure.
Powers, and Bon Jovial would certainly. I would hire them if I ever got in trouble.
Yeah, definitely an interesting package here. John and I have been, we've been beating each other up for about 40 years or more now.
45 years, yeah.
Yeah, we met in Tampa radio back in the 70s, and we still haven't been able to drive each other away. I don't know.
What's the point at this point, right?
I turned your hair
really.
gray, and you made me lose mine, so I suppose we're even.
There you go.
I'm with John. I lost mine.
Yeah.
Well, I remember John when he had hair, so I guess that's... What are you doing now, Ray? Besides the obvious, recording some music? I mean, you got to be still writing. Are you doing some arranging? Are you doing some planning? Are you planning to go on the road, or maybe do some live streams during the shutdown?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely working on some new material. This package that I have out now, of course, is a compilation from the past decade, remastered. So this, moving forward, I'm ready to put out new singles, fourth quarter of this year, first quarter of next year. Eventually, we'll be doing tours again, so I'll be out there relentlessly promoting this. But in the meantime, yeah, anytime somebody wants me to do like a live stream or something like that, absolutely.
Fantastic. Now, you mentioned your New York connection, and I have to say I really envy you being that close to home, as it were, and still being in your own world there. That's a rare combination, especially in this business. But you're close enough to the heart of it to have a real good feel. How has this coronavirus situation affected you personally, other than the obvious that you can't tour?
Well, luckily, I was smart enough to follow my guidance counselor and that really cool nun, and my mom and dad. I followed their advice. Always have a plan B in your back pocket, They say, don't quit your day job, kid. And they meant it. So I've got a little promotional business that obviously it's been slowed down because a lot of my business is face-to-face. But, it's minimized, but I'm still out there making contacts. I've been doing a lot of voiceover work, a lot of landscaping in the back. I'm just keeping busy, working out, keeping out of trouble. I mean, because everybody's home now. I can't afford to get in trouble.
I hear you. It doesn't. You don't have the luxury.
I can't no bar to run to.
That's true too. Boy, that has really cramped the industry there. John Bon Jovial, I can see you've got a thought stewing away there. In your head.
It's just back in the day. If you got yourself in trouble wherever you were, the town you were in, it's like you just pull up stakes and move on to the next place, and nobody really knows who the hell you are.
Right.
But, of course, in this day of high technology, that's kind of impossible anymore unless you really get yourself off the grid, and that's damn near impossible.
Even if your cell phone is off, I think you ping anyway. I'm not quite sure how that works, but I think of something and it shows up in my my wish list. So you can't hide anymore. It's over.
No, you can't. But
the
question,
we were the last one.
Yeah, Ray, I do have a question though, and that is, this song that we just listened to, "Gotta," is this? Now, as I tell all the guests, because either I will or Dave will, I never get to hear the music until the day of the show. So the only song of yours that I've heard right now is "Gotta," and I like it. I like it a lot. Is this representative of what you do, or is this a continuing metamorphosis of something that you're aiming for?
I think that's a pretty good median as far as if someone said, give me one or two songs, which is pretty much what I did. That's one of the ones I'm most proud of. That came out. Not only did it come to us immediately, but when we went into the studio, I only had 2 full days to record that song from start to finish. We set these impossible deadlines, and it came out exactly the way I wanted to and better. And I have some songs where I have to say I settled because we had deadlines, but with that one, I couldn't be happier as far as how that came out. And I'm very proud of that one. That's probably my second favorite.
It's a good sound. I couldn't help but catch what you said there about the time it took you in recording it. So you're basically saying it took you longer to record the song than it did to write it.
Oh, yeah. And, well, I do a lot of it myself. I play bass. I play guitar. Actually, on that song, I did everything but the drums. And that was more – I like to work with other people, but in this case, I didn't have the time to go and get personnel. It was just, let's get this out, and, we have to get it pressed. You got to get it mixed, mastered, the whole deal. So, obviously, they have windows, too. So, some of these deadlines are hard.
That's one of the advantages of this high-tech era that we're in, that you can do that easily. I mean, back in the days of yore, it was a project to do something like that. I remember Ray Stevens was one who did a lot of his own tracks and created a lot of stuff, do multi-tracking, and then of course in the beach era of the 60s, you had Jan and Dean started with a 16 track or something, 2 8-tracks brought together in the garage or something like that to do all of the overdubs. And now if you got yourself a computer with enough brain in it, you get yourself a virtual studio that you carry around in your briefcase or under your arm, and you want to do a recording, you sit down some quiet place and make a recording, and then you take it home and work on it from there. So it's a neat availability, something that I think we're seeing more and more of. More artists come on here who have mastered a lot of their own tracks from scratch and played most of, if not all, the instruments on there. And I think it's personally, I think it's a great thing, and I salute the artists for doing it. I know that back in our day, as John said, we're dinosaurs. Back in our day, artists wish they could do that, because artists back then, you start with your own, and then you get either a manager, an agent, or somebody, or a studio, and they'll take you in and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We got these guys lined up for you, and you're going to do it in there, and we're going to do it this way. And you didn't have the availability, or you didn't have the option of saying, hey, I want to do it this way. Let me show you how I want to do it. And I know it was one thing Tommy James had mentioned to us when he went to when he signed on with Roulette Records, and he was working with them in New York, and he said that in that day he was lucky. He and the Shondells were lucky because they got to do it their way, simply because the management of the record company, it was a front for the mob, and the management didn't know how to run a record company, so they basically let them go. Yeah, they basically let them go and said, do what you want to do. Essentially they were saying, we don't know how to run a record company. You do what you want to do, and we'll put it out there and hope it sells. And that's what Tommy James and the Shondells did. They were able to do their own instrumentation as well as the writing, and basically everything except pay themselves.
I'm going to make you a record you can't refuse.
There you go.
Yeah, back in the 50s and 60s, when you had the Brill Building writing your songs, and you had the wrecking crew all lined up, Phil Spector had the guys already in. You walked in, and here's your music. And that's the other thing. You probably had to learn to read music back then. Now it's like the computers do everything for you.
Yeah, you didn't have to learn all the instruments, but you had to learn how to read the music. And, I can only imagine what it must have been like for a new artist to walk into a studio for Phil Spector and have the studio, the musicians all set up and all the equipment set up, and and the offices on the way in all filled with musicians creating that wall of sound that he did. It must have been outrageous. But, the Brill Building, what a fantastic story there with all of the artists that came out of there, the geniuses that wrote all of those hits, and many of them turned into major artists on their own. I mean, Neil Diamond, Carole King, Neil Sedaka, the names are just a hall of fame. That's one thing I wish I could have gone and been a part of, got down to see the Brill Building, and I didn't get that opportunity.